All right, we are live. Okay, so today I wanted to pick up where we left off yesterday. I know I kind of just stopped it. I was having some issues with the scripts not functioning correctly, and I decided to ditch the portal effect that goes back to the existing and make it a one-way trip. So let me go ahead and just switch the view. It should actually be in the right view. Okay. So you see I've got my usual setup here. I did do a little bit of kind of weird tweaks here. I ended up putting my playmaker in the middle here, and I don't have a really big screen, but the game views here. And the reason I was doing that is I was using a lot of animation and playmaker yesterday, so I had to really build this around. So what I might even do is just add a new layout for myself, and probably should delete some of those older ones, but I'll just say this is the playmaker plus animation. Alright. So before I dive into doing anything else, I'll just go ahead and play this and show you what we did yesterday, what we were able to accomplish. It's I think it was a successful few hours, and stayed up pretty late trying to get this to work. And we're gonna go ahead and tweak the timing, find some more audio, and then really solidify this one level. And then what we can do is bring this into the other stuff and see what happens there. So let's go ahead and just play this real quick. And I will also pause my music just in here. Okay, so I did move our guy around just so I was playing this 100 times, so I wanted to make it easier for me to negotiate the environment here. So we usually have them start in the beginning, and what we're also going to do with this level is we're going to put some tall grass up here. That one of the quests is going to have to find a fire and light a fire to burn the tall grass, which will be replaced with the short grass, which is in place. So that's something I'm going to do after I get the portal stuff in place, and then we're going to try to work in the work it into the quest, but we may just have them be playmaker quests instead of the actual inventory pro itself. And also, I'm excited to announce that we've got the performance level up a lot better. I did have to turn down some things, like I actually turned down the ambient occlusion on the core manager here. Right here, I turned it down. It was, I think the radius was a lot higher, and I also turned the quality down. And I don't really know if the qualities, if I just change it right now, I mean, you can definitely notice the difference in terms of the how it gets shaded. We may be keeping on that medium one instead, but I just found when I turned it down and I cranked it down that obviously the processing was doing a lot less work trying to get the shaders in place, and it's good enough, and it looks good enough on a mobile. On top of that, whoa, that's pretty loud, isn't it? So you saw our effect right there. We have a little teleport sound and a cool shader. That's so we're gonna do the same thing to his head. So, but what I was saying was, I found that when I turned this down, it wasn't having to work as hard, and with that and the occlusion culling, essentially controlling the occlusion factors in the game engine did a lot for us in terms of running it on the iPhone 10. Before I was running it, it was the game itself was the device itself was getting really hot. The frame rate was dropping pretty significantly, and it just wasn't realistic for the average user that would be using it. So after dropping it down, I found that it actually ran a lot better. And what I'll do is, just for the sake of showing you what I mean, is I can plug into my iPhone right here, and then I can screencast the iPhone on the computer and show you what that looks like real quick. So we'll just do this. It's a pretty easy thing. You just open up QuickTime, and again, this is why I find Apple, for me personally, is better to develop on than Android, because they really favor the app developer with a lot of the tools they offer. Or at least that's what I seem to get out of it versus Microsoft Windows. Okay, so I just have to get out of my conversation here and I'll... Okay, so here's my phone in front of you. You should be able to see it. And I will just open up the demo I have here. And it's a different demo. It's called the demo. And I'll kind of show you how it flows here. So it's running a lot better, like I said, and I figured out how to get the loading time for the scene down to a reasonable amount. Before, when I had a lot of this stuff happening, it was pretty big and bulky. But as you can see, the performance here is a lot better. And so I just click play here, and I know you can't hear the audio, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 8 seconds to load this level, which is it's not bad. It can still be improved some more. But the key thing is we want to check the frame rate as this plays. Now keep in mind it is screencasting, so that is going to affect the overall performance. However, you're going to notice that the frame rate on the phone itself is staying relatively smooth, and it's going to give you a real-time kind of playback feel, which is good. So this to me was honestly one of the biggest things that we had to figure out. And you'll notice that we do have some things that need to be tweaked, like that dragonfly isn't flapping anymore. I might do that right after this to see what's up with him. And then obviously this grass is a little bit out of proportion. I will say that when you get over here, when this turns on, it still is having some performance issues, and that's just due to we have too much stuff going on. So I may actually turn off all the green particle effects. But on the other side, when there's a reasonable amount of stuff loaded at once, it runs great. So we'll go back over there just to make sure that's the case. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit choppy over here still. So. And also I think the screen sharing does affect that. So there you go. So we have a little bit of motion blur, a little bit of all that should probably still be tweaked, but you can see the size of that grass leaf right there is about 1 3/4 the length of our guy. So that's clearly too big. So that will be on the list of fixes we'll have to do. But all in all, I'm happy with the performance as of now. And so we will continue improving that as we go. Okay, so I'm going to ditch my phone, unplug it. That did make it get a little bit warm just because it was plugged in and has it was processing a lot of data. But like I said, when you play it on the phone without any screen capturing, it's pretty good, which is really all that matters. So let's go ahead and just look at our dragonfly there, because it's one of those things where I keep on saying I'm going to fix it and I don't. So we have our guy here, and clearly the reason why it's not working is because it's missing a animation here. So I don't know why that is. I didn't delete it. However, I did migrate some texture stuff into the build, and I'm assuming that may have something to do with it. Alright, so we'll just go through our different layer hierarchies here. So As you know, in the inventory system, our our top level is usually the item level, but it looks like in this case it's also the mesh level. So that may be something that we need to improve as we go. This is the script that is telling it to negotiate the environment here, and unfortunately you can't just go in and click any one of these animations. You don't really know. They're all redundant in terms of naming. So the best way to do it is to go into our just our search parameters here and figure out where this stuff is. So I also noticed that I ended up purchasing this because I lost the scripts, and so I have it saved in 2 different locations, which could be part of the reason why this is messing up here. And so we'll just go in the first one right here and see what we can find under our. So it's definitely not that one. It would be under 3D characters maybe, and it'd be under Critter Pack. Not that one. It'd be under Critter Pack and prefabs, and let's just drag this out and see. Yeah, so this one doesn't have any scripts, so it's definitely not that one. So not in 3D characters. So let's just search for that here. So let's check under the 3D models one. Maybe that's the one that will work. And no, it also seems to be missing there. So I'm thinking the best thing we can do here, and also what might actually be happening, is that with the newer version of the game engine, maybe there is some incompatibility that I didn't look into before updating it. So since we have this purchased through the store, which I'm beginning to like more and more in how they're laying this out for us, I'm also going to go ahead and put this back to the regular DigiFX layout here, so we have more room. I have noticed that this takes a lot longer now that the project's a lot bigger. Or maybe it's that my hard drive is relatively maxed out, but it takes a little bit of time for it to switch the window, which is interesting. I've never had that happen in any program, so it usually just knows how to move the stuff around relatively quickly. But who knows what's going on there? Let's do its thing. Alright, looks like it's responding now. And also realize that when you mirror this screen, it also is doing more work in there. So I'm not using the iPad screen. I will disconnect it, which will probably improve the performance. And you can see this one saves our memory profiler window out, so maybe I'll put that just over here. Don't really have to use that right now. So let's go back to the item store here, and then to find assets, now anybody on the team watching this, you're not going to be able to access this stuff because it is under my account. But if there's something missing that we have and it's purchased and it's not something we found on a third-party place, there's no reason why you can't. I can't, download it and then we resync it here. So here's our Critter Pack, and it does look like that. I'm not going to worry about this. Is our AI system. I am going to eventually update that and integrate that in. And this is our geo system here. This never ended up working. But it looks like they finally fixed it. Thank God. It's too late though. Okay, so let's see where this updates. I might just delete. Okay, so this wants to. Yeah, I don't know why it wants to do that, but it wants to save all this stuff in the 2 different locations, which is probably why it's messing stuff up. So as much as I cringe to do it, I might delete these folders here and re-import them where they need to be imported. That's a small fix for us. So in the master assets, it could also be that I rename this, and that probably was something due to that. Okay, so I'll cancel this real quick, and I will go ahead and maximize this again. And we will just, instead of deleting them, we'll just play it safe for now, and we will just drag them out of the project here so that we have them in case we lose a bunch of stuff, and that way we don't completely lose all the stuff there. And so that was the 3D models, and so we also have the 3D characters. So technically it should be in the 3D characters. Or a character is anything that's a living organism, right? Versus a model is something that isn't a life form, it's just an object, like a, well, I guess a tree is considered a model, not an object, but you know what I mean. Okay, so just doing a little updating there because it knows I took that out. And I'm gonna do the same thing for this one. Okay, and this is just so we can have them in one place. So immediately the level is gonna not like this. It's gonna say, okay, but what that did for us is it put it on the top level, which is good. So now we know it's gonna be all in one place, and there shouldn't be any issues now. So it's a little bit of house cleaning for that specific asset. And I always like it when developers organize it in a place where it's all in its own folder. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll have it, they won't really organize the best, and they'll put it in a few different folders because they're using scripts from from Unity or something else. And what that does is it creates scripts that overwrite each other, and it screws stuff up. So from my experience, good organization means it's all in its own folder, named whatever it wants to be named, and you can drag it where you want to, and it doesn't affect any of the stuff. So I'm not necessarily sure if they added stuff to this. I'm seeing some stuff in here I haven't seen before. So we got also some assets we can use, which is cool. But all we really need is we just need to re-drag in that, well, actually, no, what this is going to do is going to ruin the item. So the item is no longer working. We're going to have to recreate that item for the database. And we're also going to have to retweak the script so that it works. And I think the core thing is we're going to have to extend the life, the default life that it wants to run before it will disperse, and maybe there's a few other things we can do here. But all right, come on there, guy. Okay, looks like we did it. Alright, so we have our, what's going on here? I have a little graphic card issue here. And I'm also, just for the sake of this, I'm gonna drag all this over here so it's off screen, so I usually only like to work stuff on the main screen that I'm using. And we're gonna probably delete these in a second. Let's just see what we have here. Okay, and let's go there. That. And we'll go scenes. All right, and let's see. Yeah, so now this guy is no longer good. And these are also going to probably be all messed up. Well, I know they are, but they're messed up. It's going to be like missing item, I think. Huh. What's interesting is that if you look here, yeah, so the items actually, I forget that with the items, they don't make a separate parent object. It's all, well, this one does. So it really depends on how you set it up. I think it's if you set up a so what's happening here is that this I had created a prefab prior to making an item, versus some of these I didn't make a prefab. I just made an item straight from the original source, which is why the item and the object itself, well, this one actually might also be like that, but with the dragonfly, I think this was the original prefab. I didn't make a second one, and so that's an error on my part, because that's going to create complications down the road for us. But maybe what I can do here is, if this, it looks like you can still see it, and that might just be because we re-imported the assets that it was looking for. I'm not really sure why that's working here. But what I do know is that we need to move this to where it needs to go here. So 3D characters. And also, if you have two folders named the same, it won't let you drag it in the folder. So you'll know if there's already one in there. It wouldn't let it drop in there, but that worked relatively straightforward. I also noticed that since I cleaned up my computer yesterday, my it's running a lot better than it was. I was having issues processing everything yesterday, and I think it had to do with the cache that was needed to do everything. But it's keying better, it's running better, and I have about, let me see what I have here. I have about 50 gigs left, and yesterday I was pretty much maxed out. And I can probably even improve this more. I think I'm uploading. I do notice that Drive has been not working lately. It hasn't been syncing. It's just been like infinite looping and not doing anything. So I even tried quitting and reopening it, and it doesn't seem to fix it. So I have to figure out what's wrong with that. But let's focus on this right here. So I want to see if I can actually cheat this to where I don't have to redo it. So I can take our 3D objects here, 3D character, critter, prefabs. Let's find our, it's actually not going to be here, it's going to be an animation. So I don't know where they keep the animations though in this. So what I'll just do is I'll find the dragonfly here, and I'll just drag it out in our staging area, which is why we have this, so that we can keep separate items we're using to test out of the main build. And this one, oh, look at that, it also doesn't have animation. That's interesting. So what's up with that? Where's the animation? Yeah, that's weird. It should definitely have animation on it, right? So if I go into, where's it? Dragonfly. Fly. So that's our animation for the dragonfly right there. So if I were to here, drag that in there. I wish Unity also knew that I want that in the first slot and not make a second one, but it doesn't. It just makes me do it a weird way. So it does have animation. For some reason, it just wasn't connected there. And you know it has animation because it is rigged is a legacy, and the legacy will store that root animation in the model itself versus some of the newer stuff. It will actually just access it, and it doesn't have to store it. So it makes it a little bit lighter and swifter, and allows for you to change around mesh and use the same animation here. But let's see. Let me just zoom in on this. Figure out where this thing is. It's inside the rock. And usually when you press F twice, the camera will chase, the scene camera will chase the object you're have selected. Or there's something where you don't have to like keep on pressing F; it will just follow it. And let's see if that works here. All right, so it's already working. I can already tell because I saw the frame change. Okay. Cool. So all we really have to do is we just have to borrow that animation for this one that's floating around there, the smaller item, and I think we can avoid having to remake it, which would be cool. So we know that's the fly, so we can delete that. We can go in here, dragon, and it's not the dragon bush, it's the dragonfly, and we can just drop it in the first ones. Okay, that's cool. So when you have multiple selected, it will drag it in all, which I forgot that works. Okay, at least I think it's doing that. We'll also drag in this one. So now all three have the fly animation, so let's just see if that fixed our issue there. And we also want to make sure it's still an item, so we have to be able to pick it up and add it to our inventory, otherwise we'll have to remake it. So when I use these little critter objects, I will just copy this. I don't think I could actually copy it here. I have to copy it in the database and then change the name and then import the new. Okay, but as you can see, we successfully saved that from having to be rebuilt, which is awesome. So let's go try to. Also, you'll notice that the script for this screws that up, which is something I actually wrote to the developer and he hasn't gotten back to me about. So we may have to figure that out, because that's the one thing stopping us from building this out to other devices, is that the thumb control doesn't scale with everything else, as it has an override script. So I'm gonna have to delete the script they include and probably do some stuff that will fix it to work with iPad, the different iPhones, so we can just deploy this and it works and everything. And that's definitely something we have to figure out before we release it. Unfortunately, it's one of the things stopping us from releasing it right away. But yeah, as you can see, the ambient occlusion looks really good. It's not too overwhelming. It was a little bit much before. There we go. So those are items. I just want to make sure I can click them. I can get one of them. I have to find them. It's part of the fun is chasing them down. And I believe the life on those is been expanded to 10 minutes. So if you don't click them within 10 minutes, they die. But I don't suspect somebody's going to be on one of these levels for more than 10 minutes. And that's just a timer that it uses. Right, where is it? I see one flying around. There he is. Did I get him? Shoot. Unfortunately, the computer freezing is stopping me from. There he is. Oh, see, every time I turn, it freezes. There, got him. Okay, so we have, there we go. So we have our dragonfly right there. And it's hard to see him. I may actually want to change the coloration of that or make this transparent so you can see stuff pop more. And so there you go though, it works. So that was a cool fix we got to do. Right, so okay, so let's take a look at that. Now that we fixed that, save that out. I did turn collab off because it was trying to sync multiple copies of this. There's something weird going on with it, so I was gonna actually write Unity about that and see what the solution is. So I'm paying for it, but it's just not working like it used to. It used to work really good, and then for some reason now it just wants to have me sync a whole different version of this, and then I get multiple versions and it gets twice as big. It's like a 60 gig project instead of 30, which sucks. It's really hard to share. So what we're going to do now is we want to look into what we're going to do. What was I going to do? I'm going to work on the portal in a second, but what I wanted to do was... What was it? Forget. Just talking about it. What was I wanting to do? I get distracted. I want to... I totally forget what I was going to do. I know this recorded. I just... Oh! So here's something that happened. Our little frog is missing his materials here. Our fire frog, which is no good. Which, so I'm gonna fix that guy. Alright, fire frog. Oops, let me go here. Alright. So for this one, it's gonna be, I'm gonna find the dummy right here. That's a dummy one. And we gotta find wherever the material is, which is probably, it's definitely this one. And the material's missing here for the fire frog. That's because it's one of these here. So I'll just go into the critter pack and animal models, and we'll find, I forget if I actually created a separate, yeah, I think it was this one, right? Alright, so I'll click this and then we'll say select. I want to find the material for this though. So yeah, when you delete stuff, you're obviously going to have sometimes stuff happen to where it screws it up. So we will just find the material for this one. It's going to be this guy, so we'll select this shader. Or not that soul shader, I'm sorry, we're going to select this material. Right, and then so there's our frog material red black, and we're gonna go back to our fire frog here, who is this one. No, it's this one. No, it's this one. And we're going to say that. There you go. So that fixed that. And I'm pretty sure that the dying version also is the prefab that it generates is also missing the material now. So we'll have to fix that, but I'll worry about that later. I'll screw it, I'll just do it now. Some right here. So frog, red, black, just remember that name there. And then we'll go into NPCs. Or it might be under items, I forget. Inventory, I have to figure out where I put this stuff here. So what I can do is just say select child. No, I want to, no, not select child. I want to select, yeah, the assets right here. No, I forgot they changed that. Oh, damn it. It's hard to keep up with freaking menus. Sometimes they're always changing shit. There we go. So it's an inventory instance piece NPCs, and then there's our fire frog here. And then this guy is probably also missing. Yeah, see how he's missing his material. So it also looks like it's missing its dye animation. So I wonder if it's even hopping around anymore. This makes sense though, because this was something it was part of the critters and we deleted, so I'm not worried about that. So what I would do here is I would just immediately delete. I'm gonna bring both these out here and they're staging, and just gonna zoom in on them. Alright, and I know it's kind of warped. I'm not gonna worry about that now. There's just something to do with the prefab here. And now that we have those both out, we go to critters, a critter pack here, cancel critter pack, animal models. We'll find our frog. So we have our die and our move right here. So we want to just overwrite these once we fix them. So let's add the move there. I hate that it does that. Let's go 1, and we'll add the move there, and then we'll have to also map move it there. We'll override that, and we'll apply that. Okay, and then for the dead one, we'll do the same thing. We'll just go ahead and fix this since it's here, and we'll add the dead there, and then we'll add the die here, and we'll override that. Okay, and then we can delete these. Oh, no, we can't do that because I forgot to add the materials to that, didn't I? So I forgot that the prefab is what controls the material asset, and so if we don't fix that, then we're gonna have issues with the frog, red, black. There's that material we need. So there, that's fine. Probably would also want to change the mobile, which it should have been changed, but maybe I didn't change it. So then this one can be overridden, right? And we'll override that. And then we'll do the same thing for here. We'll go in here and the box, and we will change this, like that. That's also the same material, so it's been changed. And we'll go to the dead, apply that. So now our frog here should be okay. It should be fixed. So we'll just check and see where he is. Frog there. F. Zoom in on him. And we want to make sure he works because he's a popular little guy we're gonna use. You need he's gonna give you the fire to start the flame, to burn down the grass here. So it's important you have him working. Okay, so he's definitely hopping around now, which is good. We fixed that. And we just need to check to make sure that when you kill him or take him out, he gives you that the other animation is fixed. I also think I have to tweak the a few other things here. Where am I? I'm lost in Oasis here. Okay, so triple click. Oops. I always forget that the quest. That's another thing we gotta fix. Is we gotta fix the range of the quest selector so that it doesn't affect when we click on stuff. It's way too big. I shouldn't be getting the quest into that. Alright, so as you can see, the die animation played, but he doesn't go away. And that is a common problem I have with these NPCs. I have to set up an NPC or a special FSM that disables that component, specifically the render mesh there, which I haven't done. I have to do it for every single one. So I'll do that later, as long as we get the materials in place. Okay, so next what I wanted to do was, I guess I'm kind of upset I forgot what I was going to do before that. So we have this, that in place. It's running so much better now though. Just so smooth. Awesome. I guess what we can start thinking about is adding the tall grass in. Well, no, maybe what I'll do is I'll focus on finishing the portal stuff, because I didn't actually finish that yesterday. I just skipped it, or I stopped. And see here, camera, screenshot. So this allows you to take screenshots of the so that you want to make sure is always disabled. If you enable that, it will save stuff into the folder outside the asset, and it'll create extra rendered stills that you don't need. Alright. Let me see if I can just play this. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I can't believe I forgot that because I was about to do it. What I was going to do is I was going to fix the transparency on the inventory there, which is a very, very, very easy thing to do. So, to do that, we go to our main canvas here, which is turned off for the second. So we'll just switch these so that one's on, one's off. And our inventory window here, which you can't see because it's turned off. If I go here and I turn it on, our canvas, you can see it. And there's a script that basically tells all this stuff to toggle on and off. And I thought I turned this stuff off before, but maybe in the update it all went back to how it was. But what we know we need to do here is we need to go to our we gotta figure out which one is which. So I don't like turning these extra off because then I forget which ones are toggled on and off by default. So I wish there was a way to isolate just this layer here. Is there? Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with it. So what I can do is just kind of go like this real quick. Okay, that's interesting. I forget that it generates the background. So that tells me that that means that this, I go here and reveal this, I go open this with Photoshop, it tells me the reason why that's not transparent is because by default this sheet here, this PSD, is not default. So we can easily fix that without affecting the inventory system. As you can see, this is our sprite sheet, and this allows for you to create objects that are smaller in size and scale right here. So we'll just find the window, and that's clearly that one. And I don't know why it's separated. I'm guessing that's so you can change stuff. But what we really just want to do is see if we can turn this whole thing down here. And we can. So I'll make it like that, and I'll probably also turn these down because those are the ones that actually hold the area, the items in it. Alright, so we got the icons here. So let's figure out which one is the one we want to use. It's probably the normal one, right? The normal. And so we'll do the same thing here. We'll just blend this down to that so it kind of matches. And I'm hoping I just save this, and then yeah, so that by saving that, it's going to override it, and I don't have to like re-import it, which is a good. That'll be cool. So now, if I click back in here, it's going to take a second to fix those, and I'll save that. And I will also make sure I'm not messing anything up here. I will toggle this on, toggle this off here, and we will just test play this and see if that fixed it. Camera's working a lot better today. Look how good I look. Yesterday I was keying shitty. Today it's keying really well. Except for when you get that fuzzy stuff there. That's just from my distance and where it's focusing. Okay, so now, there you go. We have some transparency, and I'm not 100% sure. That one's just black because the image is black. It's not transparent, I think. I think that's why that's doing that. I haven't fixed that. But now you can see with the dragonfly a little bit more. And the reason why the text is black, that's just a material error, but it does pop in the real build. So just to prove my point, I will go ahead and if I save this again, it will work next time I load it. It's just something quirky with the material. So I'll save this out, and this time the text in there won't be black. It will actually be the right color. Alright, so loading our level. This grass needs to be fixed bad. There you go. So it's the appropriate colorations for the objects, and the only rare thing we have is this red starfish, which is a purple. So we went ahead and fixed that transparency. You know, it looks alright. Honestly, like that texture there. It's kind of a weird texture, but I'm going to eventually update this whole box to be aligned with this more. This is the default layout that Inventory Pro gives you, and also you notice how these are wrong, right? And there shouldn't be two of the same coins there, so we'll have to fix that. I'm not even sure if I'm going to use different kinds of coins. I might just use one set of coins. I might simplify that. This is kind of overkill for us, but we fixed it, so that's good. So let's work on fine-tuning our character and finding some additional audio. So for this, let's also let's go free sound here. And I'll turn our music off for a second. Okay. How long have I been streaming for? About 50 minutes. So, eventually I have to give credit to everybody, but for now I'm just gonna, don't worry about it. I'll have to find this audio eventually. Probably have like an intern or somebody help do that. Okay, so let's think about what we want. I want like when you play this, it has audio that plays in a level, right? And it has the sound effects of the ocean, but I almost wanted a like a loading scene chime or musical tone. You know, there's audio for the chest there. I want to bring some more life to this level because it's the first one you're going to see. I want to make it, you know, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of interactive, a lot of feedback to make up for some things here. And another thing I want to just test, and a good way to test stuff out without making it permanent, as you already may know, is if you are playing something, it won't save the state. So I want to find all the grass in the scene here. And see, that's everything. And what happens if I just go like this? Okay, so that does flatten it. That's what we want. So I think that's going to be what we're going to do here. We're going to flatten it down so it's not as... It doesn't change where it is. It just kind of makes it not nearly as tall and obnoxious. More realistic, I think. Okay, so since I did that, what I can do is I can just look at the transform. I can remember where it was, but I don't think it actually... We will still have to tweak a lot of this because, as you can see, it moves stuff. But this is how we're going to add the tall grass in, I think. We're going to basically... So... I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to make it shorter. We'll do this on all the levels, pretty much. So we'll just bring it down like I had it there. And this is permanent when you do it this way. Okay, so... That seems better. Okay, so... We'll go ahead and just group this stuff now into... We'll call this short grass. And eventually all this has to be really well organized. It's still not organized good enough. Everything's just kind of floating around. And then what we want to do is we want to just take one of these... Did I... Oh, I don't know what I did there. I think by grouping it, I actually, So maybe... What's going on there? Okay. Yeah, so some of this grass is not even being shown anymore, so we have to make sure we fix that as well. We gotta make sure these patches are actually being shown, otherwise it's a waste of memory. So that will be something we have to tweak as well. But the key thing is that at least we don't have to worry about stuff being lost in the placement. But yeah, so now that I've lowered that, I'm gonna have to go through every single one at some point and fix it so that it actually pops out and it's not sitting under here. Like even like these need to be fixed now. So that is a little extra work, but I think that's going to be more realistic for the level and our player size. So this also is hanging off. That needs to be fixed. So I'm not going to spend my time sharing that because that's something that is kind of know how to do. I'd rather show stuff that you may not be familiar with, and we can tweak in real time. There's another little thing that I noticed we have to fix, and the reason why you can't click that is because I've locked this, so the way you click it is you find it in the list and you can move it that way, which is how I like to do it. So we're in the island, not the portal, and also keep in mind that this is a parent object. This is the actual level that holds everything. This has nothing on it except for some Playmaker scripts. So everything's going to be in the child directory of that. And this is going to be a quest giver because it has a little exclamation. And I believe this is number 2. Okay, so again, we can't click it on the screen, but we can select it here and move it around, which is how I think you should do it. And then we'll just move that so that it's actually not floating. It overlaps. And if we wanted to get serious, we can even like tweak it a little bit, make it offset. Doesn't really matter there. But yeah, so I'm gonna mess with the grass a little more at some point. But one thing I did want to do here was I wanted to make some tall grass real quick for us. So go grass, take that out, figure out where that is, figure out where a big patch of big grass is right here. Alright, so that's like a good one to use. So I will duplicate that, and I will like all this stuff should be in groups, not separate, and I will eventually do that. It's not like a priority for me. Okay, so now we have our separate grass. So this is going to be the stuff that blocks them from getting by. And you're going to have to light a fire to burn it down. So for this one, make sure that you are globally, looks like I can't scale it that way, which is interesting. Sometimes it's good to zero it out and see what it looks like here. So clearly this model wasn't saved like it should be. It should have been saved to where it's zeroed out facing up. So, because then it does something weird like that. But this is the tall grass that you're gonna have to pass, so it's okay. And we'll just kind of make it proportionally correct again. So again, this is I want to make it to where to get past there, you have to burn this down, and to do that, you're gonna have to light a fire. And so we have a fire pit here, but I don't want to mess with that fire pit. That's this one right here. And there's also other stuff there that I'm noticing isn't a part of the group, so I'm going to be careful I don't lose track of that. So what I'll probably do instead is I'm going to say this is the tall grass, and I'll bring this over a little bit more like that. I'm just trying to make sure it's level, and we'll probably add some other plants in there so it's not just some out of proportion grass. Like maybe some thorns. I wonder if there's any thorns we can put in there. Thorn. And let's see what we got here. A rock thorn pick. Oh, that's cool. But that's not what we want. Sometimes I forget I have this stuff. So no thorns. So it gives me an idea though that maybe we can find something that we can add in that will make it thorn. So we'll go to sketch fab here, and I'll just say thorn bush. Right. Let's see what we have here. That's clearly nothing, so let's try turbo squid. Turbo. I usually try these two sites first, and then I'll go to Google, and I'll just Google it and see what comes up. Bush. Turbo squid tends to have a lot more stuff, but it also tends to take a little bit more work to get it where you want it, and also usually the stuff that's good costs money. Versus Sketchfab, you can get some stuff that's pretty good for free that usually people are willing to just let you have. So like these are great, but they're also $23. So do I really want to spend $23 just for something like this? I mean, those are awesome. Those would be great to have. But I'm not really trying to throw down that kind of money for this. So, I can also use, I have a lot of cactuses. I can use cactus, but are there cactus on a beach is the question. So let's see if we can find cactus. And again, what I usually do is I search for the stuff that I know I have. I figure out where it is, and then I go to the prefabs, and then I can kind of see everything together here. Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know I had that. So there's a lot of cool stuff that I just find based off of going into packs that I haven't explored yet. Yeah, these are really cool rocks. I might actually add a couple of these in the level here, just to make it unique and fun. So we'll just maybe put those here for now, and then we can figure out where they go. Just pulling in different kinds. I really like this tall one. That one's cool. So, and it's also nice how the occlusion just bakes it in right when you use it. But as you can see, we don't really have much in terms of thorn stuff here. So the other place I should look before I go to the internet is I should go to the asset store and just see what we have here. So we'll just say thorn. Like this. And that's not bad. It's only $5. These actually are more up our alley, so I might actually buy those because they're not $30. And let's see what else. And then sometimes you can find something for free. That's exactly what you're looking for. Let's see, price low to high. Yeah, but usually the stuff you want is going to cost money here. So before I purchase those, the one thing I'm going to do is just type in 3D thorn bush, right? And somebody out there has made something as a project that they want to give you, hopefully. So nothing there. It's not what we want. We want exactly what we just found. Those little foreign free 3D. Definitely not that. So if you don't find it anywhere, like on Google, good chances are it's because it's not there in the world. And Pixabay, and you could either model it. That is another thing that you could do that I didn't think about. But to me, my time is more value into building this out, not trying to model these. You can model them relatively quickly, but finding that the textures, the different variances, importing it like this, they're essentially charging $1 for each one of these. That's 10 cents a thing, so that's reasonably priced. So we're gonna buy it. Proceed. And I just like how it all goes to my PayPal. I don't have to worry about my credit stuff, which is great. It's an investment. Okay, I'll put in Unity. It's gonna come back to here. And the only other thing I usually do is when I check the package preview and I make sure, see how it's all in one folder. It's not. That's what you want, because then I can reorganize it without it messing up all the assets, like I said before. So this is going to be nice for our tall grass. This is going to be a reason for you to need to burn that wall down. It just makes sense. You're going to want to get by this, and in order to do so, you're going to have to burn this mother down. So did I import those or not? Sometimes I forget. Browser. So this is something I also recently purchased. This just allows me to open up websites within the application without it leaving the app. And I haven't done anything with this yet, and I'm only leaving it out here so I remember it's there. Usually I would organize all this stuff. So I don't know if I actually imported this. Okay, yeah, I guess I didn't. Okay, there we go. And we'll immediately take this and we'll put it in our 3D models right here so that we know where it is. Alright. Alright, so 3D models. Okay, so we have our stuff. So another thing to note, if they don't have prefabs, that's because they haven't made them. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you don't need prefabs. Like, because this is a specific item that doesn't have any scripts, it's just a model, you don't really need prefabs for it. So now let's figure out what... Oh, it's big though, huh? Is that one-sided? So that's something that's interesting. I didn't realize these are only... Okay, so that one is for some reason, but these aren't. It actually doesn't even look like it's a thorn, huh? These look thorny though. I think it's just that specific model is messed up, so hopefully they're not all like that. Yeah, so this one's fine. So now what we'll do is we'll just drag a few out. See, that one also seems to be messed up. I don't know why some of those are not two-sided. So that's kind of disappointing. Unless it's a camera thing. No, it's definitely not just a camera thing. Alright. So the ones that are cool at least are two-sided. So I don't know why they would make some of them not be two-sided there. Unless again it's just an issue with the render. Alright, so this one is no good. And I guess what we can do is we actually just want to make sure I'm only using ones that are good. We could probably have different colorations here. Like these ones, there's got to be a few that are. Yeah, so I kind of like the green leaves to go in there, and then we'll do like. Okay, so it looks like they took the same shape, but then they added a few that just have leaves instead of. Yeah, like that one. So we can mix those up by just spinning them around, and then have this one like face out. And they're obviously too big for us right now, so I'm just gonna try to get some out that makes sense. But yeah, that's better. That's a wrong color if you ask me. I think we're good. I like the brown and then the brown, the green leaves. So we have a bunch right here. Select them all. Scale them down so that they're not out of whack here. And locally, something. So we don't have to necessarily make them all together. Like we just have to make sure that it's apparent that the reason you can't get through is because it's thorny in there, right? To somebody who's going to be playing, and then we're even going to have eventually we're going to put a collider in for one, but we're also going to have a trigger that when you get close it's going to prop a message, and that's part of the quest system that we have. That's the last thing we do here but the quest system itself is going to when you approach the trigger, it's going to be like, hey, ouch, I can't get by it, or something like that, So we will bring these out a little bit. They actually look pretty good the way they're placed by default. This one, I just don't want them to be covered up by the grass, because then there's no point again in having them here. I like that one. It's kind of cool like that. This one will come out. I think this one should go the other way like that. You want to clearly see the thorns in that one here. Bring it over a little bit. This is like one of my favorite things to do. I don't actually like to model stuff, but I like to create environments. This is like in terms of game design, this is one of my favorite things. Just kind of bring worlds to life, and the cool thing is that you can reuse this for the wearables, along with just phones or VR or just computer games. These environments are now created in the Oasis world, and then you can use them throughout the place. Okay, so looks all right. So I wonder if it even makes sense to add these rocks in here too. I don't know if I think the rocks, though. The rocks I think should just be native to the island, though, like kind of poking around, because they do match this a little bit, and they give some character to the area. I think I can go right there. And then you can kind of have these two hang out together somewhere. Maybe we'll put them over here. So we'll put this one in. And again, this is all just in the staging area. We're staging this stuff, which is why it's up top. And then when it's permanent, when it's in place, then I'll drop it into the area it needs to be in. So again, another thing I try to do is put the textures in an area where you'll actually see them. Otherwise, you will miss out on the details somebody put into it. Okay. And we got our last little guy here, so we'll bring this one over and just maybe we'll put it right here. Yeah, I don't know if these are the permanent places, but it works for now. All right. There. Alright, so looks like a little area of rocks there. I always forget you can't click them, but sometimes that's good. You don't want to have to accidentally move them and then forget where they were. Okay, so I mean that's not. Thing is, I don't like that this one I like a lot, so I'm gonna put this one somewhere that's a cooler place. Yeah, I like it just kind of floating over here. And who knows, maybe we'll actually make those something you can interact with. Maybe it belongs like over here somewhere. Like in here. Kind of feels out of place over there though. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to put them in there and then I'm going to... Okay. Alright. So let's find our tall grass we created. Let's drag that out and bring it up to this. And these guys will just bring it in here, down to our permanent non-collectibles, right? And this actually is I don't even think I need this one anymore either. These ones might be a little high. Okay, well, I like that. So, there's a few more things we have to do here to so I'm going to actually have these be in the quest environment, not in the scene objects, because there's special items here that we're going to interact with. So because of that, we want to group them all, create empty, and we're going to say this is going to be thorn wall, right? And again, make sure it's on a global stage here. And the sign itself actually is a quest already, so I'm going to try to keep using those. Whether or not I use the quest system, I'm going to actually use the stuff I already have in place. So that being said, I'll drag this out in front of that. So you clearly know that you need to figure out how to burn this down. You don't want, if some kid's playing this, you want to make sure they know exactly what they're doing. You don't want to complicate it to where they give up and quit and don't like the game here. So this quest is going to be called Thorn Bush, which is nice. I actually can name it something. It's not just Quest 2 now. And when you click on that, it will pop up the quest system, but if the quest system doesn't interact with the inventory manager, I won't use it. So, so you can see our exclamation point here. Should at least, it used to at least, be able to face the camera. And I don't know why it's, yeah, so, okay, so that's the confusing thing here. So this is actually the mini map exclamation point. So I need to make sure I make that very clear, and I'll mix those up. And I think I should just have a generic thing for that. And then I need to start naming this stuff better. And then this is the one that I'm talking about here. So this actually looks at the camera as a script. So no matter where you are, I can have it face any way, and this is going to look right at the script. So, or at the camera player, which is, if you're over here, you can see it. If you're over here, you can see it. And that's a very popular thing that you do. So now that we have that in place, I can take our thorn wall and I can drag that in here. And I might even just keep it out of the mesh assets for now, because this is going to be actually the quest sign, right? And then this is going to be the thorn wall. And I only don't put spaces in because I'm thinking I'm coding it, but for descriptions it doesn't matter. You can just do whatever you want. You always go back and forth. Like this is capital, this isn't, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now that we have our thorn wall in here, we have to create a collider, or a barrier that's blocking you, right? So that means we're going to create a 3D object, a cube, and we're going to make it local just to fix it, right? We're going to scale it up like this, make sure it overlaps a little bit so that you know you can't sneak by it at all, right? So like that, and there's no way you can jump in this game, so it doesn't have to be super tall, but we will just make it match the shape of the environment here. Alright, so, and I think it can even be a little bit fatter here. So, that looks alright. Keep in mind we also have barriers here. So now that we have that blocker in place, the collider is there. That stops you from passing. So we can just turn off the mesh here, and then that will make it invisible. But then the blocker will still be in place. So what I'll do is I'll take our player here and I'll just bring it back to his starting position, and I'll fix his rotation, all this stuff. And that actually puts him in the center, so we'll drag him back over here. Putting at the starting point, the landing point of the game. I don't know necessarily how we're going to have him start here, but I do like how the camera comes in and he's like here looking at everything. Alright, so it goes down, it goes there, and it goes like that. He's in place. I always put him a little bit above the nav mesh just so it doesn't get stuck. You know, they always fall into place. So let's go ahead and just save this and play it out and see what happens. And also make sure you don't mess with any of this stuff. So usually I will just put it in Playmaker, and I will again make sure all the layers are locked out, so they seem to be, and I will clean up our hierarchy here. And I have water in this, but I don't have it turned on, so it's just for performance, and we can just put it on for now, but we may not use it in the level. So I'm keeping the mesh renderer on, just to use that as a reference. so Sully lands on the beach. He wants to pass, and he's stuck. And he can't go past it. Alright, so it's not perfect, but it's doing the job we needed to. And I may also have to rebake the occlusion here, I think. So I can click on this, and then here we can say a thorn wall. I'm not going to use rapid trebles anymore. And then it's going to say go find supplies to light a fire to burn this down. So that also means that we're going to have to add some other elements in here to make that happen. So I'm not necessarily finishing the portal, like I said. I still have to do some stuff with the player to aware, and that's going to be a universal change. This is more of a local fix I'm doing. That's like one of the quest. But I do want to start building out the series of events here so that I can complete this level and then just go in and not have to come back to it. So that's why I'm focusing on this now. So with that being said, we have to find an an element that we can use, and I usually just steal this flame I find is the best. So I can go to torch here, and I'll take one of these fires here, and I'll just copy that, paste that, and I'll bring that out, staging, and we'll call this thorn bush fire. And I actually know that I have a lot of other good stuff I can use here, so I might actually not even use this. I'm just going to pull this out because I know I have it right here, and I'll zero it out. And this is our backup that we have, so we can even also probably use this. But again, the amount of stuff we use at the same time is really important that we don't. Okay, so that's burning the right way. We may add this in with the other stuff here. Like maybe I'll put this maybe I'll use this for like the actual thorns, and then I'll put like a big firewall over everything here. So maybe like this thorn will catch on fire. Alright, so looks kind of cool, huh? So this thorn's going to catch on fire, and it's going to burn down. So because we are still working on this, I'm going to go ahead and pull out the entire quest system here to our staging area, so that we don't mess up anything. File save. I'm going to do a quick break and restart so that the cache gets saved out, and then I'll come back. So this file, I recommend doing this every so often so that your cache gets updated. That's it. I'll come back in a second and show you how we do this.